Mom, if you're about to listen to this, please don't. And honestly, it has nothing to do with what my next guest has to say. It has everything to do with what I said in the heat of the moment of this conversation. I don't want you to hear it. This episode was really cool. We talk about sex work and stripping. And my next guest, she is a stripper. She is a sex worker from London, England. And she's also the host of Stripper Stories podcast, which you can get everywhere you get podcasts, and follow them on Instagram at Stripper Stories Podcast. We get into a whole lot of things about sex work, and this is a subject I really wanted to cover for a long time because we just don't know much about it, and those who are not involved, we just don't understand it. So, we talk about feminism and sex work. We talk about, some outrageous stories that she has. We talk about how she fell into this industry, and we talk about the podcast. It was really exciting. I can't wait for you to listen to it. Please give it up for my guest, Chloe.
You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Welcome to Life in Rabbit.
All right, straight from the UK, Chloe, thank you for joining me. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Ryan. It's a real pleasure to be here.
This is a subject that I've wanted to learn so much about. We were just talking off mic about how it's a very taboo subject. Mm-hmm. And, I wanted to start off, how did you get into this kind of line of work? Because I don't think it's, when you're growing up, people automatically want to say that's what they want to do with your life. Did you fall into it? Is it something you really wanted to pursue at some point in your life?
When I was a little baby, I always thought about swinging around a pole. No, I'm kidding. I mean, it's definitely not one of those things you dream about. And it kind of just came into my relationship with the first serious guy I was with, and he was a piano player in a bar. I was working in the bar, and I had loads of debt from doing a master's degree. So I was like, how am I going to pay off all this money? It's like £40,000. I'm like, it's a lot of money. So he used to see me getting this numbers across the bar from all these guys, and he was playing the piano, and he made a sly comment one day oh, well, maybe you should be a stripper, and then maybe you could pay all your money off for your degree. and I just one day was okay, fuck you. We had an argument, me and this guy, and I went down to London. I auditioned the same night, I worked the same night, and I haven't really looked back since. I paid off all my money for my degree and my master's within 6 months of working. So it was it was something that was really positive for me back in the day, and I'm 10 years still doing it. But it wasn't really my choice, my thought process. Right. So thank you, arsehole, wherever you are. You have made me. I really appreciate it.
I love that, because there's definitely a stigma and a assumption when it comes to stripping, sex work, whatever it is, that it's people who use the money for drugs, or that they're they have daddy issues or something. And I love that you have a master's degree. You're obviously super intelligent, then highly successful. And I'm just wondering, because this seems to be sort of a cycle, at least I see on the internet, where particularly young women are using this line of work to pay off student loans, to buy their first homes. Mm-hmm. And it really seems to be a really viable option.
Yeah, for real. I mean, when I first started back in the golden age of stripping, just the golden age of porn, it has been and gone, unfortunately. I think especially with Corona, it's kind of squashed a little bit. I'm not sure it'll come back, but there was women who were 40 still doing it, and I'm 30 now, and they bought 4 houses. By the time they were 40, that's mental. And they were all completely mortgage free, so it can really have a positive effect if physical things are what you want from life. It's definitely one of those things that you can obtain from stripping. Right. But I mean, I think it is a kind of bad, just a bad overview, and just something that's not really real, that you think that all these women are sold into slavery. They don't want to be there. They're high on heroin and crack. Obviously there's probably people out there that are not in the best frame of mind to dance or to work in the sex industry in general, but for me it's only ever been a positive thing, and the people around me as well. I mean, anywhere, any job, you're exposed to drugs, you're exposed to negative like influences on you. So it just is down to you whether you decide to choose that path, I guess, just like in anything. So, but yeah, for me, it's been hugely positive. Yeah.
I'm curious about kind of like when you made this transition in your life, was it hard to tell your friends, your family? I know you said it's a positive experience, but was there, you know, did you have like anxiety about it? Was it tough to kind of tell the people in your life that, you know, this is what you chose to do?
Yeah. Like it still is hard for me. I mean, I only just told my mum and dad like 3 weeks ago.
Wow.
But I was, yeah, literally like I did it for 10 years, and like because of the podcast and because of like the hype around that at the moment, and my parents live in the south of France, so I don't get to see them very often, and they're very conservative, very Catholic, and so it took me a while to, well, literally 10 years. It's like my coming out story, my stripper coming out story. And actually they were totally fine about it. They were just like, thank you for being honest. And I was just like flabbergasted by their just chilled out, you know, demeanor about it. But I've had a lot of negative experiences telling friends, especially women, which is strange. Like, I mean, I had lots of girlfriends at uni, for instance. I talk about having a degree, and at uni we were sloshy, getting drunk at uni. All of us were together, and I thought those friends were going to be friends for life. And then I came out and I went and did my master's and told them I was going to dance to try and help, you know, supplement that income. And none of them spoke to me again. Like 10 girls. Yeah. So, I mean, I've had that negative experience. I mean, guys also just see you as a whole. A lot of the time they're like, oh my God, I'm dating a stripper. Like, but then you'll have really great, cool people who will be like, what is it like? Or, you know, it makes you very sexually confident, or makes you very, you know, so yeah, I have had negative experiences telling people. And that's why, like I said to you, I'm anonymous on my podcast. I forgot about this. Oh, shit.
We won't post any of that stuff. Don't worry.
Oh, great. Perfect. Yeah, I just always forget. I'm like, because for me, it's actually fine. It's just the people who I'm like friends with who are on the podcast, like I said. But yeah, it's a funny one. Unfortunately, like we said, sex work is not a topic that people just want to talk about, or that are comfortable talking about, which is really sad. So, and even myself, you know, it's not because I'm ashamed of what I do, because I love what I do and the people that I've met, like including you. I would never have got to meet you, you know, I wouldn't have do the podcast, all these things. So I'm not ashamed personally. It's just, you know, society's view on it. It kind of just stunts it really, you know? But yeah.
I am curious how you, like, why you wanted to start the podcast. There's a podcast, I don't know if you've heard it, it's called Guys We Fucked, and it's hilarious, and I haven't
actually seen that.
It's two comedians, Corinne Fisher and Christina Hutchinson, and it's just like a sexually liberating podcast where they'll have ex guys come on their podcast that they've had sex with, and they'll talk about the encounters, and
great.
It's hilarious. I love it. You know, so like, what was the deal with you? Why did you want to start a podcast? I was listening to a little bit of it, and it's fucking hilarious. Like the stories that you guys were telling just had me in stitches.
I mean, for me, I come from like quite an artistic background. I was an actor for a little bit. So, you know, anything creative, first of all, for me is fascinating. Second of all, in lockdown, I was very bored. My job obviously is grind to a halt right now. I'm a work on cam, but other than that, the club scene is completely dead. So normally when girls get a bit drunk or they've had a few tequilas, all they do is start talking about dick. And one of my friends is like, oh, you know, you talk about all your stripper stories. They're like hilarious. Why don't you just start a podcast? I was like, nah, whatever. Like, who would want to listen to it? But in the end, I thought, well, you know what? I'm in lockdown. There's not much to do. Why not? And actually, it's been really well received. And it's kind of like gone from just talking about dicks and being in the strip club and anal. And then it kind of has moved on to this, you know, we have a doctor in every month talking about, you know, the history of BDSM and kink and hysteria. Or we'll have, you know, one of my gay friends coming out stories and what it's like to be, a dating guy in the gay community and things like that, which I am fascinated about learning about. So yeah, I'm really glad I've done it, and it's just come from lockdown, really. So thank you, Corona, at least for that. You know, the job front, you know, we're all a bit stuck. I'm not sure about you, but like it's just a bit funky here in London. right now. So it gives me a lot more time to be on the microphone.
Yeah. In Canada, I mean, we're actually just going into more restrictions as of today where I'm from.
Really?
Thankfully, I've been able to keep my job. I work in the media business, but who knows how long that's going to kind of continue.
Yeah.
You brought up a funny point, because I've always noticed that, especially like dating women, being a straight guy, is it's a subject you don't really talk about, like, especially initially, with sex and past relationships and sexual encounters and what you like and what you don't like.
Right.
This is a subject you don't talk about until you have sex for the first time, and then it's really awful, and then you're like, okay, and then you actually start talking about it, and then it gets better.
Right.
You know, and then I always found that women are actually almost more sexual, at least in my experience, than men once you unlock that gate. Do you have any, like, why do you think that is? Why is it it's like a completely locked door until eventually it opens, and then it's just like kind of like a floodgate of all this great funny stuff?
Yeah, exactly. Me and my friend was saying this last week. She's like single dating, and she's like, the sex is always awful the first time. I'm like, it is, because how the hell are you supposed to know about each other's bodies? They're so different, aren't they? You know, like everybody's body's different, everybody's kinks are different, all of that good stuff. But I mean, I did, obviously, when I was younger and I was dating, I wouldn't talk about it. But now, if I'm single and I'm going on a date, I'm like, so anal, how do we feel? Or I'll be like, okay, so do we douche, or do you like things in your asshole? I mean, like, genuinely, I'll have a few drinks and I'll talk about it, because obviously the first intimate moment's going to be pretty shit anyway. But I think opening that floodgate early on, even before you have sex, it does weed out the men from the boys for me, personally. I like talking about sex. I think it's the most important thing in our lives. You know, we come from it. It is life, you know. And if you can't have good sex with a partner, even if you're, you know, having sex with numerous partners, not just one, what's the point? You know, and if you can't express what you like and they can't express what they like, it just becomes this just awful experience. So, yeah, I don't know why people don't want to talk about it. I think that, especially with women, I found that we just expect men to know what turns us on or how we come. Like, oh yeah, but like, he didn't go down on me for like, you know, the first 14 weeks. It's like, because the poor guy doesn't fucking know what to do, or he doesn't know if you like it. Like, at least give people some encouragement as to what you like and what you don't like. I think that would probably help out a lot. And confidence as well is just attractive anyway, isn't it? If you're shying away from something, it's just, no one really wants to push it. Especially with anal. And I talk about that a lot. I'm like, okay, there is a lot of pressure points in there. And I actually learned this week that we have better orgasms from our assholes than from our vaginas or dicks. So if you can like penetrate your asshole, it's the best orgasm you'll ever experience in your life. But people don't want to talk about it because it's your asshole, right? It's like overcoming these, I don't know, boundaries, I guess. It's just pushing that button, you know? Yeah.
I remember one Christmas, someone I know who's gay was, you know, they were a little tipsy when they were drunk. We're out, he's having a smoke, and he's just like, you need to have a prostate orgasm. I'm like, pardon me? He's like, no, seriously, it will change your life. I'm like, you know, just even me, like, coming from a small town, like that's scary. Like, he was so adamant.
Yeah, but the thing is, you can just talk about it all you like until you experience it.
Yeah.
That is another thing entirely. But yeah, he's absolutely right. Absolutely right. And like, I think it depends with a woman as well. If you have anal and it's the first time, it's really, really freaking awful, and you have a really bad experience, whether it's just the dick size, or with a guy, if you've got like a girl going down on you and you feel uncomfortable, whatever. If it's a bad experience from the get-go, you're less likely to try it again. So it's all about just overcoming that, I think. But a prostate orgasm for dudes is just next level. Have you had one yet?
No, I haven't. I think even like trying to convince myself to get over it, but then to try to ask a woman to, I don't know, like that's a barrier for me.
Well, I guess so. I mean, obviously not every woman's into the arse, right? Yeah. But you can do it on your own. That's like another thing you can do. There's toys out there that are really freaking great that work, and you can experience it on your own without having to ask anybody's help.
That might be blush.
No, for real though.
And it's funny, you know, when we're talking about these first experiences, I think especially I would go back to my early 20s and my first kind of like sexual experiences. And it was very common for like, it was just like the woman just wanted to do kind of like doggy style. And she's like, isn't that what, like, they would all kind of be like, isn't that what, you know, guys like? Isn't that what guys want? And it kind of occurred to me, I think men get a lot of their first sexual kind of fantasies and experiences from porn.
Yes, you're
and
right.
Porn is like this exaggerated form of sex, and then but I think that becomes the expectation, and then it like kind of ruins women because guys are just kind of jackhammering and jamming their fingers places, and it would probably be very unpleasant.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, porn has got some like everything to do with how people perceive sex, you know. I think it's people, I'm not saying women or men or whoever, is I guess like responsibility to, if you do watch porn, I don't know, it's the most ridiculous mum thing to say, but do it responsibly. Like don't be just thinking that women actually moan like that and just come like this, like, or, you know, holes just open up like the fucking Grand Canyon. Things don't actually happen this way. Like it is acting at the end of the day. It's just like going into a strip club and saying, oh yeah, that stripper's really into me, you know, she really fancies me. I'm like, no, she's there for a job, right? Okay. And actually, if the porn stars are doing their job well, or the stripper is, you're convinced of it, right? So I think it's just our responsibility to like, you know, be real about it and like read a bit and like understand that these women are working and men are working, and not to take sex as that's what it is. Real sex with a real person is just so much more fumbly than porn. It's so less airbrushed and there's a lot less moaning, and it's, do you know what I mean? It's just not realistic at all, is it?
Yeah.
That's why amateur porn is pretty great to watch, because like it is, you know what I mean? Like I love amateur porn. You know, you learn some real things about it. You're like, oh, actually, that you know, position does actually work like that. You know, it's not just, you know, made that way through a porn studio, you know? So yeah, I do agree with you. Porn is to be, you know, enjoyed responsibly, I would hope. Such a boring thing to say.
Is there a particular things that you've learned about men with sex that maybe before you joined this profession and you started to get more experience in talking about it with other professionals? Like, did you learn something new about men that, you know, you maybe didn't know beforehand or had another preconceived notion about it? Are they like, you know, do they like anal play more than they want to like let on? Do they, you know, or do they cry more? I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I think we're all, whether you've got a dick or a vagina, or a dick and a vagina, we're all the same beast, really. I think we've all got feelings deep down. I mean, I think that there's obviously a stigma around how a woman is made and how a man is made and what we need to do to be the man and the woman in the relationship. But I think from what I've experienced, especially, I mean, I've never been an escort, for instance. I've never accepted money for sex because my brain doesn't work that way. However, I mean, in the strip club, you see those guys who come in, balls, you know, blazing, like, lads, women. And it's normally just a projection of like, it's like if a guy gets a really swanky car and you're like, he's got a tiny penis. It's like, it's kind of like a similar thing. People do have feelings deep down, and they normally, from what I've experienced, you don't see their best selves in the strip club. That you just see them the most kind of Larry arsehole-ish self, you know, I think. So I haven't really seen the best sides of men, I wouldn't say. If I've learned anything, it's negative things. And I think, but through the job, the people who I've dated, who I've told about what I do, it does weed out the men from the boys. And I've been pleasantly surprised by guys who are just like, yeah, it's a job. And they'll understand then why I'm so sexually open, and they'll understand me a bit better then. So I have been like kind of flawed a little bit by how well it's been received when I'm dating someone. I mean, I've had really positive experiences dating guys, you know, it's never been an issue in my job. So yeah, I mean, guys love anal, guys love sex. That's what I would, you know, and they're more open to like talking about it. Not when it comes to me, because I'm pretty much a guy in that sense, if that's what you'd call it, whatever. But but that's a generalization, I would say. I mean, a lot of women do like talking about it. I think it takes a bit of coaxing out, I think.
Right.
But yeah, that's what I would say.
Especially with like the male female dynamic. You know, it's very hard for me to bring up the conversation of sex because I don't want to come across as like being that guy, like, oh, he's just concerned with sex, right? Like if the woman brings it up first, like we're total, like then it's like, okay, like it's all game and we talk about it openly. But for me to initiate that, it's like, you know, because also, you know, like men love sex, but men are assholes, a lot of them.
Well, some of them are. Some women are. Like, I've been an arsehole. Like, I literally hold my hands up and I've been an arsehole. Like, when I'm single, I'm just like, I'm almost act like a bit like a dude, but that is not a bit like a dude. I shouldn't say that because it's not like anything, really. I'm just a bit more, sex is sex. It doesn't have to be attached to an emotion. You know, I don't have to date you to want to fuck you. Like, it really is just it's a carnal urge, right? And I think that's how men see sex a bit more than women. They can decompartmentalize their brains slightly to see it as what it is, right? Whereas women have a feminine emotion about it, and it has a dreamlike emotion slightly. Some women, and that's a stereotype that I'm kind of outlining there. That's probably why you're finding it harder to talk to women about sex, because that's the stereotype, right? The men always talk about it. Not in my life. Like, I'm the one that always wants sex more. I am the dude, right? And there are women out there like that. I'm sure there are lots. And even if they're not like it now, they probably could be with the right man. So I think it just takes, you know, coaxing and, like, you know, feeling comfortable with a partner to be able to talk about it.
Right. I want to go back. So you mentioned that you do cam, and one of the things I've found fascinating, especially since the pandemic, is like OnlyFans and kind of creating this, I guess, almost multimedia kind of company brand of yourselves, right? Like, people are posting on Twitter with promotions and you know, pictures and videos and clips and teasers, and then, you know, you have your OnlyFans with your subscribers, and then Instagram, and, you know, it's almost like you're like the women, especially, who do it. I know men do it too, but become sex worker entrepreneurs. Is that like kind of what you go for now, especially now with the time with all the clubs being closed?
I personally haven't got OnlyFans just because it is a lot of work. Like, people have this preconceived notion that you'll just upload a few nudes and you're going to make thousands of pounds or bucks. Like, that's not going to happen. Like, you need a big social media following. You need to put a lot of time and effort into, like, the content you're posting. It's constant. Like, you have to message these people back. Like, if they're going to pay a subscription for you, it does take a lot of effort. But there are avenues like Cam, for instance, that are booming because obviously everyone's at home. In between, like, work meetings, they can just, you know, from Zoom call to Cam, have a quick wank, back to Zoom call. Like, it's very, very convenient. So that for me is great because I can dip in and out of it and it's totally fine. OnlyFans, however, it's, I mean, I've got a lot of friends who are on it and who make really good money from it. There's so much going on in the world of sex work right now. You know, it's kind of gentrified a little bit, you know, through the media, through, like, you know, films like the Hustlers movie and things like that, you know, coming out. People are like, oh, you know, strippers are real people. Look, J-Lo's playing one. It must be, you know, it's fine. So yeah. And especially, like, you know, Bella Thorne, we talked about this, and, like, all these other celebrities getting OnlyFans accounts like Cardi B and things like that. So they are making sex work more publicized, which is great. I mean, in a positive light, absolutely great. You know, for a struggling economy of any kind, you're just like, great, throw some, you know, media behind it. I'm sure it'll work itself out. But yeah, everything is online now. There's so much going on online, like sharing, you know, sending knickers, or like posting people's panties, like, over the, you know, or like sending foot pictures or old shoes, or like sending all this weird fetish stuff, fetish stuff, you know, doing financial domination, which is like taking control of people's finances. And there's just so much stuff going on via the online media that, you know, sex work is surviving. Barely, but we are just a little bit.
I am glad you brought up the Bella Thorne thing, because that was, I mean, it was a big story, and I don't really think everyone totally understood why that was such a big thing. Can you like shed a little bit of light on why that really mattered?
Well, like I said, OnlyFans is like a massive forum for women who've got like, it's like a side job. A lot of people do it full time. They can make a lot of money from it. It's quite a free medium where you can, as a content creator, post, you know, not fit for work content like Instagram. So like lots of influencers do it, but they have like closed folders. I'm sure a lot of people out there know what it is already. But anyway, you pay a subscription fee and you get nudes, or you get something that you're, you know, you're correctly branding or like correctly selling. So you shouldn't, you know, overpromise and underdeliver. This is exactly what Bella Thorne kind of did. She, you know, as a feminist was very much like, tits are tits, and you know, let's get our bodies out. You know, I'm an ex-Disney star. It's totally cool. I can't post any of this on Instagram, but I'm going to post all of my filthy shit on OnlyFans. And everyone was like, wow, oh my God, we finally get to see Bella's tits. Then they all subscribe to OnlyFans. All of her fans from Instagram, where she can only show a side boob, go onto this forum and they pay money. She made £1 million in a day. Then she made 2 million in a week. And everyone was like, oh my God, it's the best thing ever for the forum. Then the chargeback started happening because people weren't getting what they were promised. There was no nudes, there was no porn, there was no anything different from Instagram at all. She completely oversold it. So yeah, I mean, for me, it wasn't a problem with any celebrity having an OnlyFans. Cardi B's got one, but she's like, guys, there's no WAP. There's no WAP on my OnlyFans. Don't expect it. If you're going to subscribe, you're going to get like backstage pass to my video or something. You're like, okay, great. Bella Thorne didn't do that. So now the forum has changed all of their rules, whereas like you can only get paid every 30 days instead of weekly, which is ridiculous. So all the women who are getting, you know, have bills and stuff to pay, they have to wait for 30 days just in case of chargebacks. They can only charge up to like £200 per content. And I think it's like £100 for tips or something like that. So like they've basically been capped completely. Whereas before you could just spend whatever. So now they've basically tarnished everyone with the same brush as Bella Thorne. She's completely fucked with the system and everyone's losing their minds. All my friends are on like the WhatsApp group, like, oh my God, like my money's been half this month because of Bella Thorne. She doesn't need the money. What's she going to do? You know? Hopefully she said that she's going to send a lot of this money to like, you know, help the sex industry of some kind, send it to like a strippers collective or whatever, but yet to see that. So yeah, I think it's very important to like, you know, not overpromise and underdeliver. Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny, just like we have that saying in, you know, it's just like any other business. And I think people need to realize that how much work and how much customer service and all these different things happen when it goes into it. And it's funny, as we're both podcasters, it's funny, I saw a tweet a while ago, but it was just basically like, how many times do you see like a service or a platform where people, like, you know, the users build it, make it super popular, start monetizing it, and then you have the celebrities coming in being like, okay, we're going to go take all the fucking money now, like on Instagram, YouTube, with podcasts now, and then we're all like, well, fuck, and then we got to go start another thing. It's just this cycle, and it's what happened with OnlyFans.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Nailed it.
It's brutal.
I know.
I'm curious. One of the questions. So I did put out some questions to people because, again, especially in Canada, like I don't think no one ever says like we know a sex worker or someone in this industry, whether it's stripping or anything, but. A woman asked me that, do you have a response to someone who would say that sex work is anti-feminist? Because I know that's a common kind of thought, not necessarily in the new age feminism with the younger people, but especially with older women, I think, and more conservatives, boomers. Yeah. Do you have, you know, I know a response to that, or have you ever thought about it?
I mean, no, I mean, obviously I've thought about it, and like, I think everybody's vision of feminism is different depending on how old you are, where you come from, what background you are, you know, like it really does depend. that word is just such an umbrella over so many different things. And so it's like putting something, just like the sex industry. There's so many different types of jobs in the sex industry. It can, it's the oldest profession in the world, where people have been selling sex since the dawn of time, right? So to be able to put it into a category where it's correct or not correct, or it's, like slandering this type of woman, or is it really, disgracing the vagina across the world? Like, I don't think that you can really judge it based on the word feminism and it affecting, just a small portion of someone's mind process, right? I think when it comes to sex work, if it's making someone happy, they're in control of what they're doing, they're promoting it positively, and they're not hurting anyone else, then just let them live. As a woman, it's your body. You should be able to do with it whatever you like. Men take their shirts off when it's hot. Women should be able to, if they feel comfortable, just free the nipple, get your hairy armpits out. No one cares. Like, I think we should get past the point of judging others now and just, think about ourselves. It's just like the same as Instagram and things like that out there. Like, oh my God, how could she post, her ass online? Or just let her live. Like, it's not affecting my life, as long as it's not hurting others. I think there's a lesson to just stop judging. I think there's a way of putting your feelings onto something if it is a woman doing something negatively, and like Bella Thorne, for instance, tarnishing everybody with the same brush and doing something and not really, promoting it in the correct way. But with feminism, I don't even like that word, because what does it even mean? It's just so many people have so many thoughts on what it is and rules that I just don't like it, personally for me. Yeah.
Interesting. You mentioned being in control, and I'm wondering, how is that a hard thing, especially with stripping, and when you're, around men who rambunctious and maybe, the testosterone's flowing and they're a little aggressive and getting a little handsy. Like, how hard is it to be in control of those situations?
I think, well, in London, I can't talk for America, but in Canada, because I've never worked there, so I don't know what the system is like. But in London, we've got so many bouncers and so many cameras. It's so safe. Like, it genuinely is safer than going on a Tinder date. You're probably going to have more fingers in holes you don't want them in on a Tinder date than you would in a strip club in London. Trust me. Like, I swear. Like, it is so safe. I've never had an issue when it comes to that. Any sniff of anything wrong, the man is dragged, or the woman is dragged out. So yeah, I think as well, like we said earlier about drugs, drink, and that kind of lifestyle. In London, I know all the bankers go out on a weekend and they get absolutely smashed working for like all the biggest banks ever. So it's not just the sex industry that is in that world. However, we forget, because it is a party environment, your body is your job, and you have to look at it like that. So the one thing I learned very early on is, if you're going to see it as a party and go into the strip club drinking and doing drugs every night, you're never going to last. You'll make your big money, but you'll burn out very quickly. So for me, being in control of, like, if it's going to be a job that is a job for you and you actually want to make something of yourself, like in any job, you have to take it seriously. You can't let the party just overrun you, because it will, it's just like anything really. But yeah, I think, yeah, totally. Like, I've seen girls who haven't been in control, or there's been another reason why they're dancing and it's not for themselves. Unfortunately, when it comes to like sexual abuse, sexual harassment, sexual health, there's so many other things behind why people do things, not just in the sex industry. So for me, it's all about level-headedness and also supporting your other, sex worker, being kind to others and not, slating them for their jobs or what they're doing, being supportive.
Is there a lot of pressure on you to, have a certain body type, to, be in shape? Like, is there a lot of pressure with that, or is it becoming more, I guess, quote unquote, accepting that like you can have a lot of different types of bodies when it comes to stripping specifically?
Yeah, with stripping, I mean, I think it's come a long way. It also depends in London, especially what strip club you work for. So there's something like Stringfellows, where everyone knows that you have to be very tall and very skinny, because that's kind of the guys go in there for that type of woman. And there'll be, you know, Spearmint Rhino, which you have in the States, which is all very curvy women with big tits, big assholes. And then you'll go like different, you know, strip clubs have different things. It's like a conveyor belt of women depending on what you want. And I think us as sex workers, we are so, you know, not bothered. Like if a guy wants a specific thing, just say it and stop wasting my time. Like no one is precious about what we actually look like. It's about the guys wasting the time, I think. So for me in London now, I mean, I do say this to everyone, like if you want to dance, dance. It's not about the size that you are. It's not about, you know, you just got to find the right club for you, the right environment, and go for it. Because it's really just about confidence, really. And like I said, just having a level head. You know, sex is so subjective, right? Every man, every woman likes something different. There's no carbon cut out of what sex should be or what sexuality is, you know? Like it bothers me that people have this idea of it. Like same with porn, you know, that's changed so much too. So yeah, I think back in the day though, about maybe 10, 15 years ago, it was a little bit more, you have to look like this. And now it's changing, which I love.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I want to get to the podcast now. And like I said, when I was listening to it, it's just hilarious, the stories that were coming out. Do you have any like particular things you've learned from it that maybe you didn't know before? Or like a story that someone told on it that really like stood out to you?
In terms of like, it stood out to me in a funny way or like a negative way or what, or anyway?
Anyway, we'll go anyway.
You know what I like is the fact that it didn't happen in the beginning. I was telling all of my stories in the beginning, like full on word vomiting all my stories. And then I dried up a little bit. I was like, come on now. No one wants to listen to my voice anymore. And people actually started sending in their stripper stories.
Oh.
So which I find fascinating. You know, last couple of weeks ago, a girl who I don't know just sent me a DM on Instagram, was like, I want to share a stripper story, because this is what I always say at the end of the podcast. Send your stories in. I'd love to air them anonymously, of course. Her first experience with a sugar daddy, and she's never done it before. And she's, you know, went out and met a sugar daddy, and she's like, you know, I went out and I met him in a church, and I couldn't believe it because I realized that's where I go every Sunday, you know, and I thought I'd go somewhere where I feel safe. I'm like, great. You know, that's funny. Like meeting your first ever sugar daddy in a church when you come from a very Catholic and very strict background. Like it's that kind of anomaly there. It just fascinates me. So me hearing all these different experiences from others, especially, is the best part of the podcast to me. Less about my stripping stories, because they're all just irrelevant. It's more about, you know, new people telling their stories and finding a way to air it and not have a face to it. I think that's quite therapeutic for a lot of people. So yeah, I think it's talking about, you know, loads of things. Like some girl last week was like, oh, I find that when I fuck my new partner, whoever it is, I get this sixth sense about them, and I can feel like all of their like negative or positive things. So it's like almost like she's got this like empathy. She's never had it before, but she's like, I get this really strong feeling in my lady gut. Is that normal? I'm like, sounds freaking weird to me. But I mean, I've never felt like, I mean, obviously everyone's got like a lady gut. You feel things when you're in a relationship with someone, right? You know, when things are right or wrong or whatever. So I asked my doctor, Dr. Kink, about it, who's on the podcast, and he's like, yes, this is a real thing, and he talks about the science of it. I'm like, okay, I'm learning a lot. So yeah, I think it's mostly that, the other people's stories. So if you've got a story, please send it in. I'd love to air it. Like honestly, that's the best thing for me.
Is there because that kind of, again, sexual liberation podcasts, like those are super popular right now, and there's I think it's called Call Me Daddy. I think Barstool does it. Remember, you don't like that one?
Right, I do like it. I actually do like it. I listened to maybe like the first couple of episodes, and I was into it, and I dipped my toe back in like a bit. It's just, it sounds the same every week though. I'm just like, how much like fucking a new guy in New York City can we talk about? You almost want it to just be like, I love all that gossip. I love hearing about women's first this story and that story, like I just said. But it has to be a bit of substantial something underneath it to keep me interested, I feel. Right. You know, like it's like gossip magazines. You don't want to be reading them all the time. You need to read like The Independent every now and again just to feel like grounded and not feel like a complete arsehole, right? So I think I do love Call Her Daddy. I'm actually, I think that, I mean, Barstool picked it up like 4 episodes in, right? And just it went before everything ever, you know, the podcast situation now is very different, right? We both know this. So yeah, I think it's very popular. I mean, women want other women to talk about this shit with. Where's the man's version of this though? I want to know. Like, is there a man's version of Call Her Daddy?
If there is, I haven't heard of it. And what I find interesting about it is guys talk about sex all the time, but we only talk about the, you know, chest beating macho moments. Like, oh yeah, like we were doing this girl, it was good, maybe it will come. But I love it coming from a girl's point of view because that's where you get the real dirt. Like a guy coming like straight on the wall and he's like, that's just what I do. I just like right on the wall everywhere. I'm like, whoa, what? So you hear what guys actually do in the bedroom that we don't talk about. We don't usually talk about the weird shit or the embarrassing shit. Like me, people laugh. Like I don't like getting semen on me. So like
you don't.
I don't know.
Why?
I don't know. It's just
it's yours. It's from your body.
Weird. So when I found out that like guys like come on their chest, I was horrified. I was like, what?
Wait a minute. Where does it go? Do you put a towel down or something?
Kleenex. I'm sorry, mom and dad who are listening to this.
Well, so you come in a Kleenex?
Yeah.
That's so clean of you.
Yeah, I just it's just me. Like I don't like it on my hands. And every girl I've ever been with, like they think it's so funny. But we as guys don't talk about that part. We just talk about like hooked up with this chicken. Like,
she's done her face.
yeah, exactly.
Right.
Like, even for me, like I feel bad about that. Even if they ask for it, I'm like, are you sure? Like, no.
She's like, give it to me. Be like, do you really want it?
Yeah, you have to beg. And I remember the biggest thing now that I'm finding is like a lot of women like pain or some sort of, you know, like hard spanking or choking or maybe like a hit in the face. And I'm like, but I don't want to hurt you. So you do it. And they're like, don't be a bitch, harder. And I'm just like, I don't want to hurt you.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God, that's such a tough one, isn't it? Because you don't really know like what to do there. You have to be in more of like you need to know the person well, you know? Yes. You can't just be slapping here, right? You know what I mean? Like giving black eyes. Like it's not normal. But to be fair, I do love a spank. You know, and it's a regular thing.
It seems more normal than it is abnormal. But then it's because I remember a first hookup, a girl started choking me, and I'm like, this isn't okay. But I don't want to say stop. Like I don't know.
Don't use me like that. I'm not just. Yeah.
So it's just funny because guys will never talk about the weird shit that we do, but the women will, and they'll tell each other. So now that we have these podcasts,
well, why don't you tell me now? What's the weirdest things that have happened to you? You don't have to give any names, obviously.
Oh my God.
You're like, which one?
Someone wanted, and we did have sex in an abandoned gas station. It was probably like the weirdest.
Ooh, yeah. Like Walking Dead. That's mental.
Almost, yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's kind of hot though.
It worked. It was after the bar. Like it's a fun story. It was probably the weirdest though. They're like, let's just do it right here. I'm just like, what?
Okay. Let me clean the surface down quickly. You're like,
really? Like get the voice all.
Literally, where's the blue roll? Amazing.
Yeah. So anyway, I'll come on and tell my favorite stories.
Please, I need to have you back on my podcast. Like seriously, you're such like it seems like you're a masculine man who doesn't really talk about it that much, and for me, that's just fascinating.
Yeah, I'm awkward. I'm not sexually very liberated or confident, but like I don't mind sharing the funny stories because people can talk about it, but.
Absolutely,
because I am really awkward about it. I'm like,
there's literally so much I'm awkward about, like the weird, like weirdest shit, like talking about animals. Like people want to talk about get a lot of that on cam, like bestiality kind of vibes, and I'm like, no, I can't do it. No.
But I know you got to go. This has been a real treat. Thank you so much.
Oh my God, thank you so much for having me.
Where can people check out your podcast?
anywhere that you listen to podcasts. So we have an Instagram, Stripper Stories Podcast. So check us out on there. And a little website as well, stripperstories.com. Yeah, check us out.
It's amazing. It's hilarious, guys. I can vouch for it. So go check it out. Chloe, thank you so much. This has been amazing.
Thank you very much.
Okay, take care.
Bye.
You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.